So this is the final exam for the, midterm exam for the fall semester 1 of the innovations class. Well, we started out the year learning about how to brainstorm properly and to and the proper way to sell a product, and that being like the golden circle rule. Give people the why, cut straight to the limbic part of their brain, and then work your way forward. It makes it more attractive. So onto the proper brainstorming. We learned from multiple videos that to be able to brainstorm properly, we each got into our separate areas and found a problem. Our problem this year was for FRA parking. FRA parking was our main issue that we wanted to try and fix. See if there was any immediate solutions, or really our first goal was to come up with as many problems with it as possible. And we came down to, there weren't enough parking spaces. The school is still growing a lot, and there's going to be a giant boost. Like there's a 5% growth the past 5 or 6 years, but then there's going to be a 20% growth next year, which is going to completely shatter the parking situation. The parking situation is just so out of control. And the thing is that we brainstormed to maybe there could be a quote unquote FRAM. That being a tram that was designated to FRA, where there would be a different area of parking lot, possibly on the front lot in front of the middle school, and it would deliver people up to the high school. Another was a multi-level parking garage. More on the unfeasible end, but still would have been very cool to have. Another thing that we came up with was there's a little area between the tennis courts and the end of the high school. I mean, it's about 25 yards, 30 yards of parking, just empty space that we could use to probably fill in about 50, 60 spots. And not only that, we could have where there's a little area where all the buses are parked. If we move the buses, we would have 13 to 15 new parking areas, depending on how you measured it out. And let's see what else. And so that was mainly on the parking piece. We moved on to the innovations piece, on how to innovate and take in information that we can use to help benefit ourselves. And doing that, we watched a video about the guy who created the first MRI. Brilliant guy. And he was so proud of his invention that he couldn't see there were any problems with it. So when when the first kid came to be scanned, the kid walked into the room, saw it, and just broke down crying. And he was so confused. He's like, I don't know what's going on. And he found out that the kids, because they were the different little it was like the scanner's on here, scanner on the bottom here, scanner maybe on top, and the kid laid down flat like this. If you think about it, it is much like a clamp. The kids were scared. They were terrified, and it took being walking a guy out who had just the doctors had to sedate the kid, one of the kids, and the inventor was walking out with one of the parents, and he said, and it was something along the lines of, I want to make sure my son is like is more mentally safe, because with all the problems that the dad has, making sure the kid is okay. Am I gonna get laid off from work because I took another vacation day, just to drive my kid to his doctor's appointment. So that's just like, he has so many worries, but when he was, but and he's got a sedated kid right now, and so he took on that advice, and they and at that point they had to sedate about 80% of the kids. When he took the information and decided to um, uh, there's no other for lack of a better term, kitty up the room. There was like the one I can remember is there was like a little river with stones laying on the floor, and it led into the MRI room. And in doing so, when the kids walked into the room, they had aerotherapy, and the stones opened up into this big canoe that was on water, and the kids. I mean, it's absolutely incredible, because the kids would just sit still and just like they would look up. They would sit as still as possible, because the doctors had said, all right, if you sit still, then you'll see the fish jump over you. Kids stood still as stone and watched the fish like jump over them, and it really was such an amazing sight for the inventor to see, because just with like a little design thinking with a group that he had. They went from having to sedate 80% of the kids to having to sedate less than 0.5% of the kids, which was absolutely incredible. Less than 2%. I can't. I'm trying to think of this off the top of my head. So what I'm working on. I started out working with music business, like a more music production side of it, but I'm gonna do that more in the spring. At this moment right now, I am working on. For the past couple months, I've been working on our War Machine robot. I'll throw in some pictures right here to see, and so you'll see the claw and the body of our robot. We have a scissor lift and a four-wheel motor, four-wheel drivetrain, and the claw was my addition to what we call the War Machine, and it was based off of Valiant's claw last year, and we and it was based off that similar mechanics to it. We and from what I hear from what we had in the competition, unfortunately I was unable to go. What we heard from the competition was that we got into the semifinals, but lost because we were not allowed to flip our claw by ourselves. So that was a little unfortunate. But hopefully next competition we'll do better. We'll have a little time to prepare ourselves. So hopefully the next semester will bring some good, yield some good things, and I can't wait to see what it has in store. Oh, and And briefly with the elevator pitches that I forgot to mention, that my mom was fortunate enough to be able to teach us how to do a proper elevator pitch. It's a 30 to 60 second pitch to like one that if you get on an elevator with someone and you're riding up, you talk to them and say, "Hey, this is what I do. This is why I do it. This is hello, my name is. This is what I do. This is why I do it." And like you can throw in a question like, "Have you ever noticed?" or "Do you ever?" etc. It's something to get them interested. To try and get them interested or provoke some thought. So that was our main the main focus for the elevator pitch, and so I can't wait. And so in the spring, I'm hoping to do a little more, maybe a little more with music production, but also stick with robotics. And briefly, some successes I've had with is the scissor lift. This with the robotics, scissor lift is working so much smoother, and there was a lot of trial and error that had to be done. We used a thin axle instead of a thick one, and so when we used a thick one, it worked so much better. We greased up everything so that it was able to run a lot smoother, and we started using rubber bands so that the scissor lift could extend much easier and better. So, and failure wise. There weren't too many failures, but using the small axle, that definitely was something that shouldn't have happened. And let's see what else. And the claw, trying to get it at the proper angle because our claw flips down, and the problem is that it would always tilt at this angle, which would go into the body of the the robot, which is bad because we want it at least this angle, not this, and so that was our main issue. So hopefully I'll work with a little more with music production next spring, but also working with robotics. So I look forward to it.